How France turned bandits into an elite and changed warfare. In the first half of the 15th century, France looked like it had been fed through a meat grinder. The Hundred Years' War had drained the country. The English were firmly entrenched in Normandy and Aquitaine. The Burgundians were advancing their own agenda. And King Charles VII was reduced to a miserable existence, controlling only a small fraction of his own kingdom. But the most dangerous enemy was not foreign. It was born from the war itself, armed gangs of unemployed mercenaries. When fighting paused, thousands of soldiers suddenly found themselves without work. And a warrior without war is like a predator without prey. He begins to hunt. Their victims became peasants, townspeople, and merchant caravans. These ruthless groups of hardened fighters who had battled across Italy, Germany, and France, soon evolved into full-blown criminal clans. They seized fortresses, strangled towns with extortion, and controlled entire trade roads. Known for their brutal savagery and habit of stripping the clothes from the dead, they earned the grim nickname écorcheurs, skinners. Charles VII found himself trapped. The country was in ruins, the treasury was empty, and the crown's authority had collapsed. And then a man who could hardly be described as a warrior stepped onto the stage. Jacques Coeur, a wealthy merchant and banker who rose to the status of what we might now call a 15th century oligarch. His proposal sounded insane, yet it saved France. If we can't destroy them, let's buy them. A deal with the devil. In 1439, Coeur offered a radical plan: grant the most notorious écorcheur leaders legal status by hiring them and their gangs into direct royal service. They would receive wages, rank, and legitimacy. In return, they had one key duty: eliminate their former rivals. So yesterday's outlaws became the backbone of a new royal army. To fund the project, Coeur introduced a permanent tax, the tile. Exhausted by constant violence, the people agreed to pay it if it meant an end to terror. As a result, France formed one of the first true regular armies in its history, an army not loyal to feudal lords, but directly to the king himself. The rise of the steel wolves. From 1445 onward, 15 companies, rod units, of former raiders were reorganized into the elite ordnance companies, the early foundation of the future Royal Gendarmerie. Each unit was built from lances, compact squads of 6 men, a fully armored gendarme, a lightly armed couturier, 2 mounted archers, and 2 servants. Their wages were extraordinary. A master gendarme earned sums equal to the income of a modern top manager. With that money, one could buy thousands of liters of beer or build a fortune. The state supplied horses and housing. Cities were obligated to maintain soldiers in decent conditions. Discipline became strict. Drunkenness and absence without leave meant immediate dismissal. Thus, an army built from bandits turned into a terrifying, unmatched force, and in armor, swords, and new tactics. A 15th century French gendarme was not a romantic knight. He was a living tank. His full-plate armor, the so-called white armor, cost a fortune and made him nearly invincible. His main weapon was a heavy lance for devastating charges, supported by swords, warhammers, and cleaving picks. But the greatest advantage of the new French army was order. Instead of chaotic waves of aristocratic cavalry, the ordnance companies marched in dense formation, reinforced by mounted archers. On open plains, this machine was virtually unstoppable. The Burgundian copy, and its failure. France's success inspired Charles the Bold, Duke of Burgundy, to copy the model, but he focused on spectacle rather than structure. His gendarmes shone in gold armor, silk, and bright plumes, but discipline was weak. Brawls, stabbings, and jealousy between mercenaries of different nations rotted the Burgundian army from within. In the end, ordinary Swiss peasants with pikes crushed Charles's magnificent troops. Charles the Bold himself died at Nancy in 1477. The decline of the gendarmes. The French ordnance companies survived longer and became the foundation of the 16th century French army. But as firearms advanced, heavy cavalry grew too expensive and increasingly vulnerable. The age of the steel wolves ended, giving way to faceless but efficient gunpowder armies of a new era. If you enjoyed this article, support the channel with a like and subscription, and share your thoughts in the comments.